My name is David Michael Reardon, and I play Jason Todd in Red Hood Resurrection. And today, I'm answering questions from the Red Hood fans. Shout out all the fans for sending these in, and also Anita for compiling them. I really appreciate you guys. Let's dig into it. What was the hardest part about playing a character as dynamic as Jason Todd? Considering the different adaptations of the character across media, was it hard to know what emotion to show at certain times or which emotion to hone in on, like his rage, sadness, plans for revenge? Did it ever feel like you couldn't connect to Red Hood? Maybe because you yourself are so different from the character, or because you didn't know which version of him to portray? This is a fantastic question. I think the hardest part about playing a character as dynamic as Jason is finding that balance between the emotions, because Jason can sometimes come across as one note in certain runs or in certain adaptations, and he's not a one note kind of character. He's very complex, like an onion.
Ogres are like onions.
You peel back the layers and there's going to be something deeper in there. So you never just want to play him one note. You don't want to play him just as the angry character, because he's so much more than that. So for example, when we look at the scene from episode 4 in the flashback sequence, Jason is having this conversation with Dick and he's obviously very upset, but he's not just mad. He's not just vengeful. He's heartbroken. He's shattered. He saw something happen to his sister that should never happen to anyone, and he was assured by the very person he's speaking to in Dick that this would never happen again, and yet the Joker's back out on the loose after what he did to Barbara. So that is a concoction of emotions. I mean, you have rage, you have sadness, you have desperation. So the balance there is sort of the trickiest part.
You weren't there. You didn't see it. I found it. I saw what that monster is capable of. And after all this, you're just gonna sit here and do nothing?
Most human beings aren't just one note in 99% of situations, and certainly somebody as layered as Jason won't be. So I think that's the biggest challenge, but luckily we have a great director who writes a great script and makes that really easy. But yeah, I tend to just try to hone in on the primary and secondary motivations for each scene in order to find where I'm supposed to be emotionally. I'm not Christian myself, but I read the quote from Galatians 6:9 that you referenced, my favorite verse. And I think it connects deeply with the concept of superheroism. Do you find yourself doing good despite the energy and self-reflection it takes, especially in the world of acting? Or how do you find yourself doing good? To better phrase it, how do you aim to make a positive difference in the world through the characters and stories you portray, as well as your actions on and off set? This is a fantastic question. So for those of you guys who don't know, Galatians 6:9 essentially says, never get tired of doing what's good, for at just the right time you'll reap a harvest of blessing if you don't give up. Great verse, keeps me motivated to keep trying to at least do good and be a good person, not because of, some sort of material reward you might get, but because it helps to deepen the soul and helps you to become a better person. That's the harvest of blessing that I think is most relevant to me. So in any sort of job that you're in, you're gonna run into people who are not the nicest, and you have to be able to show love and do good to even them, and that's whenever it becomes really difficult. But most of the time it's just framing myself in the morning in the mindset of, I want to make a positive difference, I want to help people, I want to be of service, because ultimately a life of service is a life well lived. So that's, no matter where I'm at, on, offset, in front of the camera, behind the camera, that's the sort of mindset. So that keeps me going, and it helps me to overcome some negatives that are bound to happen in all of our lives. But great question. Have you ever pretended to be in a show? If so, which one? So this might be me revealing a bit of my psychosis. And I hope that I'm not alone in this, because if I am, this is gonna be weird. But I have pretended to be on so many podcasts and talk shows, it's not even funny. And I think in large part, it's because one of my primary motivations in this sphere is impacting people in a positive way and sharing a positive message whenever I hopefully get to those places. So, Joe Rogan and I, Jimmy Kimmel and I, we're like this in my mind, although I've never been on there. And then in like TV shows or movies, yeah, sure, whenever I'm in the shower, which is typically when I have podcast guest hour in my brain, I also have, TV show guest hour. So yeah, I hope I'm not alone on that. If I am, I guess that's just who I am. What is hard to play the role of Jason? I think what that means is, what is difficult about playing the role of Jason? I think, like I said earlier, just finding the balance between the types of emotions he might be feeling in any given scene.
Perfectly balanced. as all things should be.
Jason is an incredibly complex character. He's been through a lot, he's suffered a ton, he's overcome a ton, and his life perspective due to those things is very unique and special. So being able to capture his emotions comes from being able to capture his perspective. So I think that that's probably the most difficult part, is attempting to dissect each scene, dissect each moment and each line with what is he trying to get here? What is the primary motivation? Is there a secondary motivation? If so, what is it? And how can I properly capture that? But then also not overdoing it with that, because for me, I'm a big Meisner guy. I want to be reactive. I want to be present with my scene partner, because that's how natural scenes come together. It feels much more natural whenever you are being natural in your reactions, where you're paying attention to your scene partner, and however you say the next line is truly reactionary to how they said theirs or what body language they have. If you try to prepare too much, sometimes that your responses become robotic, and that's not what you want. So I think finding the balance between a proper breakdown and also letting it go and being responsive and reactive and present in the scene is the biggest challenge for me, outside of maybe just the physical toll it can sometimes take. How do you prepare yourself mentally before filming an intense scene? It's different for every scene. It depends on what kind of scene it is. If it's a highly emotionally intense scene, I take a step away from the set. I get by myself. Most of the time, I will just run through the lines in my head, picture the situation, and put myself in that emotional state through visualization and imagination. If I can't quite get there, if I know it's a hyper intense emotional scene, then sometimes I'll use substitution. So what that is an acting technique where you basically take the person, place, or thing that's with you in the scene and you replace it with a person, place, or thing from your life that can help you to get to the emotional response that you need. So for example, if you can't get to the emotional place that you need in a scene where the person in front of you is leaving you or whatever, like they're breaking up with you, if you picture your significant other in that situation as if you were speaking to them and they're the ones who are doing this, maybe that helps you get to that level. So it depends on how intense it is. If you're talking about emotionally intense, it's one of those two things. I either get there through visualization, imagination, or I get there through substitution, which is also obviously imagination. I warn against using substitution all the time though. I think that it can damage your relationships if you rely on it too much. If you're talking about a physically intense scene, I physically warm up. I stretch, I move around, I try to go through the motions. We walk through it multiple times, and usually I'm pretty prepared for those scenes by the time we get there because I train really hard leading up to it. But yeah, those are the 2 or 3 ways. What was your favorite part about bringing this new version of Jason Todd to life? Honestly, falling in love with the character. I love the character from the beginning. I had watched Under the Red Hood, the film, a couple times, but that was my extent of Jason Todd knowledge at that point in time. So going through and reading every single Red Hood run was a journey for me that I really enjoyed, that I figured I would enjoy, but I didn't know how much I would. So being able to take that journey with Jason, learn more about the character, get more enveloped into this world with the wonderful fans that we have, this comic book community, getting intertwined with that through the process of learning more about Jason, I think that's probably been my favorite part in the process of playing him. In terms of the overall process of making the project, it's just spending time with people that I love and care about. I get to make this project. I'm so blessed with people that are some of my best friends in the world and my family. So it's a true pleasure to be able to do anything with your friends and family, but especially something like a creative endeavor. And so that's my favorite part overall, but just in the process, it's learning more about Jason, becoming one with the comic community, so on and so forth. What is a role/genre of film you want to act in the most? For a role, I'd love to play a detective in something. I've always wanted to. I wanted to be a detective prior to getting into acting. That was gonna be what I was gonna do. My aunt was a special investigator, so that was something that I was interested in and something I'm still interested in conceptually from an acting perspective. So I think as a role, that would be fun. In terms of a genre though, I've done action, drama, comedy, rom-com. I haven't done suspense, horror. We're doing a psychological thriller for season 2 of Red Hood, so that'll be checked off. So I guess like thriller or horror, and I'm not a huge horror fan, but I think making a horror film would be a lot of fun, and psychological thrillers are my favorite genre of movies outside of action dramas. So yeah, I think that pretty much answers it. What is your zombie apocalypse survival plan? Alternatively, what do you think RHR Jason's plan would be in such a scenario? So mine is try my best to get to either my parents' house or my lady's parents' house. They're stocked up on things to defend yourself, and being around family would be great. In terms of Jason, I mean, I think he's probably doing what he does in the comics, in Deceased, I believe is what it is, where he goes back to the Batcave to look for the rest of them, and if they're not there because they've been zombified, he just takes what he can and makes the most of the situation, takes out all the zombies he can. Yeah, that sounds about right. I think that Jason's gonna try to find the rest of the Bat family, but if he can't, or if they're already too far gone, he will take them out and do what he must to survive. What would you say is the greatest aspect of life? I think the greatest aspect of life is having an opportunity to make a positive impact on those around you. I think that's what life is about. I think it's about showing the goodness that's in all of us in order to help other people have a positive experience and get closer to their creative design and their purpose. I think that we all have a purpose on our life. I think that we all feel that. We feel that pull of destiny whenever a certain opportunity comes or whenever certain interests are sparked. I think we all feel intrinsically what we're supposed to do. And the best thing for me is helping other people to do that. I absolutely love the fact that I've been able to bring people in for this project that I've worked with in the past that I really like, and in other projects as well, where I can bring people together that I love and care about in a process that allows for them to take steps closer to, you know, what their purpose is on Earth. I think that's the best thing to do, is live purposefully and help other people to live purposefully as well. What have you learned by portraying and acting as Red Hood / Jason Todd in the sense of morals, character, and as an actor? What's been the best parts, and if there has been one, what's been the worst? I'll work backwards. So the worst part about this is the moments whenever I have the helmet on and it's dark and we're doing fight scenes. That is one of the top 10 most annoying things I've ever had to do in my entire life. You can't see out of it. It is a pain. The best thing, I think I said earlier, is just spending time with the people that I love, crafting this character, becoming part of this community, and engaging with the fans. In terms of what I've learned morally, not a lot. I feel like I love morally gray characters because they're so interesting, but I don't take a lot away from them. I feel like my moral compass is a bit more sound than Jason's, but it is interesting trying to look through that lens, like look at the world through that point of view. Character-wise, just learning more about him, developing that character, doing the research. I've learned a ton about who he is. I feel like I know the character of Jason about as well as anybody, and that you can't do that without digging into the material. I mean, I even read the different DC guides from 2008 all the way through 2025 in order to get his profiles. I bought them so that I could read his profiles on there to learn more about him as a character, which is interesting. And then as an actor, I've been doing this project for so long that I've just naturally developed as an actor. I think that doing scenes with Johan has helped me to learn to be present and reactive in the comedic scenes. Doing the scenes that I've done with Nick, I think there's a playfulness about him, but also very technically sound actor. Being able to work with him has helped me to become a more technically sound actor. And Jackson is just incredible. Being able to watch him in his element, knowing when to push, when to pull back. His performance is so layered. I think that just being able to watch him via osmosis, it's made me a better actor. So over the course of the 5 years that we've been working on this, I've become a better actor by just acting, but even being close to wonderful actors that I've had the opportunity to work with has helped me in very specific ways. I don't know if you've ever had questions like this, but what would you say if I told you that French people, in all caps, are watching your content /RHR? Take care of you, boy. I imagine they mean take care, my boy, or something like that. Thank you, you take care as well. I think it's amazing. I think it's so cool that people around the world are falling in love with our project. It makes me so happy to know that we are reaching people in a positive way and, you know, putting out an interpretation of this character that people that know the character and primarily know him from the comics and from Under the Red Hood have really fallen in love with. So it warms my heart to know that there are people in France and you know, everywhere else, Australia, everywhere, watching this, because as an actor, you want to feel like your work is appreciated. You want to feel like your work is being viewed. At the end of the day, I do feel like it's about the art and about the impact that the art creates. So the more people that you can impact positively with your art, the better, in my opinion. Knowing that it's reaching people around the world is incredible, and it makes me feel like we're doing a good job. So thank you for watching. What do you think is the hardest thing about acting as Red Hood? What things did you have to challenge yourself to do in order to become this character? That's a great question. I talked about the helmet earlier. That's the hardest thing to do, is like logistically to wear that helmet and do any kind of stunts. You're basically blind in it. You can't breathe. It sucks. But outside of that, in terms of as an actor, in terms of the process, I think just going to those emotional depths has been tough. I will say, because of the nature of season 1, we haven't gone as deep with Jason emotionally as we will in the future. So I'm really looking forward to getting to season 2 and really diving deep into the psychological and emotional damage that Jason suffered. It's going to be something that rips your heart out, but also something that gives me an opportunity as an actor to really stretch and bite into something that is so much deeper than anything I've ever been able to do before. And then what things that I have to do to challenge myself in order to become this character? I mean, really just digging into the material, making sure I did my due diligence research-wise, but also the physical transformations have been difficult but fun. I've lifted weights and, you know, just worked out in general for a long time, but doing something like this is very different because it's not just looking a certain way. I also have to perform a certain way. I have to be able to pick people up and throw punches and kicks and stuff like that for hours on end. When we shot the first episode, my back locked up bad, like towards the end of filming, to where when we're doing the sword fighting scene with the League of Assassins stuff, my back is so stiff. You can actually see whenever I go to pick up the sword in order to throw it at Zach, my back, I can't like round my back. It's completely locked up. So learning how to mitigate that kind of stuff and safely navigate my training to prepare me for the role, and then safely do the stunts in a way that doesn't leave me locked up and unable to get out of bed for a few days, like it did for episode 1. Best Jason costume, wrong answers only. Oh, this is a great question. I mean, I think there are so many good ones. I have a TikTok where I discuss my favorite ones. I think the worst one, I don't know. Oh, I do know. The recent comic run that got canceled. Ooh, not good. Not good. What got you into DC/RHR? I've been into DC my whole life. I can't remember a time that I wasn't a Batman, Superman fan. Collected comics from the time I was very young. I have a relatively decent sized collection. It's not crazy, but always been a fan since I could remember. I was born in '97. The Dark Knight trilogy, you know, came out in the mid 2000s, and Spider-Man obviously came out in 2002. So just superheroes in general, I've always been interested in, basically as far as I can remember. And then RHR, Noah and I just randomly had a conversation one day about how we wanted to make some stuff together. I was pitching myself as Johnny Storm to Marvel. Didn't get it, obviously, but we shot something for that. And then in doing that, we got to talking about other characters that we think are underappreciated. Brought up Red Hood. He was like, we should do a Red Hood project. I was like, yeah. We did it. We shot it the first time. Wasn't very good, so we reshot it. And then here we are. 5 years later, roughly. Was there a prop that looked awesome on screen but sucked to actually use? Yes, I know I've said it twice already, but the helmet, it's so hard to see in that, even when the lights are bright. But when we're shooting stuff, it's usually pretty dark. So doing the fight in episode 5 with Red Hood and Deathstroke, I couldn't see basically anything. It's so dark in there. It's plastic and it's like translucent. It's not completely transparent. And whenever you breathe, it fogs up. So any low visibility that you do have gets worse. If you turn the lights on, you really can't see literally anything except for white lights in front of your face. So it looks amazing and it's well worth the effort, but it does suck to do stunts in. What's your favorite combat move or move that you would want to do again for season 2? The knife drop we did in episode 6. So sick. Chef's kiss. And the way that Scruggs added in the score, the sound effect of the descending violin, whatever it is, it's amazing, paired very well. I would love to do stuff like that, more knife throw type stuff. I think the reverse grip shotgun thing that we did in episode 6 is pretty cool. Suplex that I did in episode 5 on Zach. I mean, all that stuff, so cool. The sword throw at Robin in episode 3. There are so many cool things that I would love to incorporate again, but we're always trying to up the ante. And luckily we have a true expert in Eric who helps us with that, and we put together some amazing pieces. There's actually a lot that got left on the cutting room floor from the episode 5 Deathstroke, Robin, and Jason fight sequence because we just didn't have time to shoot it all. So there are things that we have in the chamber ready to go for season 2 that we weren't able to use in season 1. But what kind of roles do you usually enjoy acting in the most? Any in particular? Yeah, anything that's layered and interesting. I mean, I've done everything. I've been the boy next door. I've been the douchebag jock. I've been the lead. I've been supporting, a romantic partner, non-romantic lead, angry guy, very happy, soft guy, like all of it, right? The one thing that I take away from projects that I genuinely love is when I get to do interesting stuff or portray a character that has interesting things they do, think, or say. So that's the through line. I mean, I played a character in the movie Hazel's Heart where it's basically me. I'm playing myself effectively, but I get to ride horses all day. That was a blast. Love doing that. But then more on the character stuff, obviously Jason is going to be a bit deeper of a character, a lot more interesting things that I have to dive into psychologically, etc., that I don't get to do with other roles, and I love latching onto stuff like that as well. So really, if I get to do something cool, that's amazing. If I get to do something cool and I get an interestingly perspectived character, then that makes it all the better. Favorite version of Jason Todd, whether that be Arkham Knight comics or game, Red Hood comics, or Red Hood from Titans, or Under the Red Hood comic or movie, or even Jason from RHR. Which one's your favorite? So I'm not gonna say myself. That feels pretentious. I think the top dog, clearly, in my opinion, is going to be the Under the Red Hood, whether that be the comic or the movie. I think both of them are fantastic. I guess I'll lean in favor of the movie just because Jensen Ackles voices the character and he's one of the GOATs. So I would say Under the Red Hood Jason from the movie in particular. What's something, a skill or trait unique to Jason you've acquired while filming for RHR that you'll take with you for future roles? All the physical stuff. I mean, as I talked about earlier, I've gotten better as an actor, just being present, seeing different fantastic actors bring their strengths to the screen as well, and sort of pulling from those and trying to be better in those areas. But I think that the physical side of things, the stunts, the demand that is placed on me in a physical sense, is by far the most valuable thing that I gained in terms of things that I can carry into other roles. Having to put on and drop weight, having to perform all these different stunts, all that stuff, all of that is going to be incredibly valuable in the future for other roles that I hope to take on. Next question, do you have a favorite line? If so, could you tell? Yeah, so for a long time, it's been Robin's line from episode 3, where Johan, improv, leans on his bow staff, and after he retrieves it, he says, "I know, right? It's really annoying, but it's cool, like on my end."
Oh, I know, right? It's so annoying. But it's cool, like on my end.
Great delivery, great character moment, absolutely love it. It also helps that scene is shot very cinematically. I think it's beautiful. Noah did a great job with that. But I will say there are a few lines from episode 6 that I think Jackson did a spectacular job on that might be vying for that #1 spot. I love whenever he's looking up at me and he literally gets a tear dropping out of his eye and he says, "You gonna bark all day like a little or are you gonna bite?" So good.
What are you gonna bark all day like a little or are you gonna bite?
He's fantastic. Watching Jackson in episode 6 really be so detail-oriented with that character, pushing forward whenever he needs to, pulling back whenever he needs to, being up here and down here and everything in between at the exact right moments, that makes his line delivery so impeccable. So I think it's one of those two things. What is your Hogwarts house? I've taken the test 4 times. 3 times I've gotten Gryffindor, once Ravenclaw. So 10 points to Gryffindor. Okay, we'll do 2 more questions. So for this next one, any general advice on how to get better at acting? I'm attempting to do voice acting for a fan project of mine, but I'm constantly paranoid that my delivery is either cheesy or over the top or underwhelming. And then they go on to say that they appreciate our series and they thank us for what we do. Thank you so much. Okay, so voice acting is a bit different because you're not always going to be in the room with your scene partner. If you do get to be in the room with your scene partner, this stuff applies. If not, I'll come at it from a different angle. So one of the pieces of advice that I give to all actors is, number one, be present. Do not be sitting here worried about, what do I sound like? What do I look like? Is XYZ correct? In your preparation, you should lock that stuff in. Not your delivery, necessarily. There are rare instances where you do want your delivery to be a certain way, if you know that your character is going to say this particular way, but in conversation, we don't really plan how we respond to people. So this is why I love Meisner so much. It's living truthfully in imaginary circumstances. Part of that is being ready and open to listen and react. Acting is reacting, as they say. So instead of allowing yourself to go to that mental place of, oh God, like, what do I look like? What do I sound like? Is this cheesy? Is this over the top? Try to be as natural as possible. Really lock in with your scene partner, just be there with them, and do that to the point that everything else melts away. The background disappears, all of it. Now, there is a science to being technically sound, as in hitting your marks, making sure that you're not, in the other person's light, making sure that you're hitting your light, making sure that you are open to the camera in the way that you should be, etc., while still, whenever you're in the conversation, you are as present as you can possibly be. There's a really fine line there. So the more you do it, the better you'll get at it, just like anything else. But make sure you keep those things in mind for actual film acting. Now, if you can't be in the room with your scene partner and you're just doing the voice acting side of things, it's a little bit different. I would say learn the art of inflection. The naturality of it is something that is very difficult to capture if your scene partner's not there with you. If they are, all the same stuff applies. Listen, react honestly. You already know the lines, get it baked into your system, you'll be fine. But it is such a technical art. I'm not a voice actor, so for that, I will default to other people, but I think that's the best advice that I could probably give you. I will say something that does help with your delivery and your understanding of how to say certain things certain ways is there is something called the cookbook method. This is one of my favorite acting exercises. I revisit it all the time. Go online and look up 128 beat-changing action verbs. In fact, I'll put it on the screen for you. You take that, you find a random cookbook recipe. I literally have a cookbook downloaded on my Kindle for this exact reason. You go through any of those, to adore, to condone, to chide, to scold, things like that. And you say the recipe with that intended tone. So if it's to adore, you're gonna say, the 2 eggs, cup of flour, etc., with the tone that you would use if you're trying to show somebody that you adore them with your words. What it teaches you over time, although it's very awkward at first, is that the words don't really matter as much as the intention behind them. So I would encourage you to do that for both sides of that, whether your scene partner is going to be in the room or not, because there will be times, again, regardless, where you need to say a certain line a certain way. You'll get direction from your director often, where they're like, say it this way with this intention. You want to be sharp on that so that you're prepared in those moments. But yeah, I hope that helps. And last question, how is it being in such a popular series? Also, love your work. Thank you so much. It's incredible. This is one of the biggest blessings of my life, being able to work on this. We love you guys so much, and being able to have our work appreciated and have it recognized by a wide variety of people makes us feel like we're doing our jobs well, and really warms our hearts. It's one of my favorite things in the world. Acting is my vocation, it's my dream, it's everything in terms of that realm of my life. So being able to be appreciated and acknowledged for that is incredible. It's not what we do it for. We don't do it for the recognition. We do it for the art and for the impact. But the recognition is a good signal that those things are moving in the right direction. So it's incredible. It warms our hearts. We are so happy to have all of you guys watching and supporting. You guys are all incredible, and we love that we have this community with you guys. But that does it for 20 questions from Red Hood fans with David Michael Reardon. Hope that you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. But thank you guys once again for watching all the way to the end. I love you guys. If you guys want to help contribute to the funding for season 2, I'll have a link in the description. But thank you guys once again. And until next time, have a blessed day.